the Church of Baseball. I grew up a fairly normal girl, playing with Barbie, joining the Girl Scouts, taking pictures of my beagle in various costumes. I played catch with my best friend and either my dad or her dad many nights in the summer. We played baseball with the neighborhood kids in my backyard. The willow tree was first base, a red or blue jacket was second base, the fir tree was third, and the monkey bars were home plate. And when I got a little older, I went to Yankee Stadium and Shea Stadium. I had always liked baseball. But it wasn't until my mid-20s that I became a rabid fan. One of my mentors knew I liked baseball, so he gave me a copy of The Glory of Their Times, one of the best baseball books ever. It's a collection of reminiscences of early ball players, researched and tape recorded by Lawrence Ritter, an economics professor from NYU. Reading the book brought me back to the early 1900s, when people followed their favorite teams through telegraph or late afternoon newspapers. There was no TV, not even radio. I fell in love with their stories. I joined the Society for American Baseball Research, SABR, and as one of the few women in the organization at that time, was interviewed myself for an article in the Washington Post. I met the son of one of the ball players in the book, Smokey Joe Wood, at my first SABR convention and arranged to interview him. Smokey Joe and I became friends as much as a 93-year-old man and a 28-year-old woman could be friends. I visited Smokey Joe a few times and was treated to demonstrations of his wind-up motion and his comments on current players and plays as we watched Boston games together. I wrote my doctoral dissertation on how baseball stories socialize kids into positive behaviors. I even published 2 books and a few articles about baseball. I was completely hooked on the game. Like any other religion, baseball is rich in tradition, ritual, superstition, myth, memories, and the sacred. What is more sacred to a baseball fan than a revered player's record, especially when it breaks another venerated player's record? Like Cal Ripken's record of consecutive games played, which broke Lou Gehrig's seemingly unbreakable record, or Joe DiMaggio's hitting streak in 1941, which may never be broken, or Babe Ruth's home run record being broken by Hank Aaron and later by Barry Bonds, attainment of the unattainable. Baseball is infinitely more humane than other religions. Poet Lewis Phillips writes, "Certainly baseball has not killed as many innocent persons as religious differences have. Baseball has its flaws, its history of racism and religious intolerance, but has it ever sponsored the Inquisition? Has it ever condemned anyone, with the possible exceptions of Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson, to hell? Christians have the Shroud of Turin. Baseball worshipers have the retired uniform of Babe Ruth." He goes on to write, "Religious differences divide one person from another. Baseball, on the other hand, promotes brotherhood, a spirit of fairness, a respect for skillful play, no matter if performed by a Jew, a Catholic, a Baptist, or even a complete atheist, although there are no atheists during a World Series." American philosopher Morris R. Cohen wrote in 1919, and please excuse the sexist language, "The essence of religious experience is the redemption from the limitations of our petty individual lives and the mystic unity with a larger life of which we are a part. And is this not precisely what the baseball devotee or fanatic experiences when he watches the team representing his city battling with another? Is there any other experience in modern life in which multitudes of men so completely and intensely lose their individual selves in the larger life which they call their city? In baseball, the identification has even more of the religious quality, since we are absorbed not only in the action of the visible actors, but more deeply in the fate of mystic unities, which we call the contending cities. And in the words of sportscaster Ernie Harwell, baseball is a ballet without music, drama without words. One day, about 21 years ago, I turned on the TV, and the only game I could find was a Texas game. I hate Texas. But it was baseball, and Nolan Ryan was pitching, so I watched. And as the game unfolded, I began to realize that I was witnessing history. Nolan Ryan was pitching his 7th no-hitter, a major league record. And as a devout believer in the Church of Baseball, I prayed with each pitch for the no-hitter. And if any of you read the papers this morning, you'll see that Philip Humber of the Chicago White Sox threw the 21st perfect game in Major League history yesterday. Like any religion, baseball has its share of superstition, too. You don't talk about a no-hitter while it's in progress. Other players on the bench stay away from the pitcher, giving him space. Superstition is the reason some players eat the same meal before every game or wear the same article of clothing, especially if they're on a hot streak. Some players won't step on a white line on the way to the infield or outfield, and some will always step on a base for good luck. Speaking of superstitions, how about the sophomore jinx? Anyone remember Joe Charbonneau or Mark Fidrich? All religions have their rituals. Each baseball player has a unique, ritualized walk to the plate, batting stance, home run stride, and fielding style. Many batters will make the Stations of the Cross before each pitch. That's interdenominationalism at its best. And the fan rituals. When you hear a chant of boo for one of your own team's players, it's probably the fans chanting for a Lou or a Mookie or even an Albert Pujols. If your pitcher has 2 strikes on the batter, you clap in rhythmic unison before that next pitch to get the strikeout. And one of the most cherished rituals of all is the 7th inning stretch.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back. Let's root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. 'Cause it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Back to the bottom of the 7th now. What is it about baseball that makes it so special? Baseball reminds us of the halcyon days of childhood and peacefulness of rural life, even if we grew up in the city or worse yet, in the suburbs. Baseball is a reflection of the past, It's played in a ballpark, a green cathedral. In the heartwarming novel Shoeless Joe by W.P. Kinsella, the main character, Ray, says, "A ballpark at night is more like a church than a church." And baseball is democratic. Each player gets a turn at bat. And unlike many team sports, virtually anyone can play it. Even the best players can and do strike out. Enlightened Republican George Will wrote, but it's a good quote. "Baseball, it is said, is only a game." True. And the Grand Canyon is only a hole in Arizona. During World War II, when Americans were losing sons, husbands, and brothers overseas, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, in what is now known as the Green Light Letter, wrote to then Baseball Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis, saying that baseball should continue for the sake of the country's morale. And if you think that our culture hasn't completely embraced baseball, think again. How does this sound? As American as Mom, lacrosse, and apple pie? One of our Unitarian predecessors, the great poet, thinker, and writer Walt Whitman, in response to a comment from his literary executor and biographer Horace Traubel, said that baseball is the hurrah game of the Republic, said, "That's beautiful, the hurrah game. Well, it's our game. That's the chief fact in connection with it. America's game. Has the snap, go fling of the American atmosphere. Belongs as much to our institutions, fits into them as significantly as our constitutions, our laws, is just as important in the sum total of our historic life." And Jacques Barzun, French cultural historian, said, "Whoever wants to know the heart and mind of America had better learn baseball, the rules and realities of the game, and do it by watching first some high school or small town teams." Most religions also profess a strong sense of morality, just as does baseball. And both religion and baseball can be equally corrupt. I don't have to tell you about Catholic priests. In professional baseball, 8 Chicago White Sox players were banned from baseball for throwing the 1919 World Series. Pete Rose is banned from baseball for gambling and lying, and like Shoeless Joe Jackson from the Black Sox, is not eligible for the Hall of Fame. Players of high moral character are revered, like Cal Ripken and 2 of my personal favorites, Tom Seaver and Christy Mathewson. Hall of Fame umpire Bill Clem said, "Baseball is more than a game to me. It's a religion." And if you saw the movie Bull Durham, you might remember Annie Savoy saying, "I believe in the Church of Baseball. I tried all the major religions and most of the minor ones. I've worshipped Buddha, Allah, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, trees, mushrooms, and Isadora Duncan. I know things. For instance, there are 108 beads in the Catholic rosary, and there are 108 stitches in a baseball. When I heard that, I gave Jesus a chance, but it just didn't work out between us. The Lord laid too much guilt on me. I prefer metaphysics to theology. You see, there's no guilt in baseball, and it's never boring. I've tried them all, I really have, and the only church that truly feeds the soul day in, day out is the Church of Baseball."